Hi everyone, in this series of lectures we are going to learn the concepts of industrial engineering. I am Omkara Swarupini, lecturer in mechanical engineering, Jain Government Polytechnic. In this lecture we are going to learn about work study and time study. In the last lecture we have learnt about time study procedure and different methods of time study, how the standard time is being calculated, etc. In this lecture we are going to learn about time study methods like PMTS and work sampling. Let us see what is PMTS. The full form of PMTS is Predetermined Motion Time Study. So, according to the British Standard Institute, PMTS is defined as a work measurement technique whereby times established for basic human motions are used to build up the time for a job at desired level of performance. So, in this study, we are going to learn or calculate the time for basic human motions. Manual work consists of different combinations of relatively small number of basic movements or basic motions. So, each manual work can be again break down into different small number of basic motions. The time required for skilled workers to perform any of these basic motions is constant within practical limits. So, when we are dividing the work into very small and minute movements, generally for skilled workers, it will be almost constant. Job operations can be recorded on a movie film. By analyzing frame by frame of the film, the time taken for each terblick, that's nothing but small movement, may be recorded on a chart. So, in this method, we are going to record it on a movie film and later we are going to analyze it frame by frame. That's nothing but again we are going to watch that movie each frame by frame and we are going to determine what is the time taken for each small movement and is recorded on a chart. Standard data can be prepared in the form of tables. These tables give time values for fundamental motions and these tables are used in industry to determine standard time for a new job. So, by using this PMTS method, for small and minute movements, the standard data can be found and it can be given in the form of a standard tables. So, with this timetables, we can easily find out for so and so operation that the standard time is this much. Like that we can use these standard tables. Some of the commercial PMTS which give time values are methods time measurement, work factor, dimensional motion times, basic motion time analysis. These are the commercial PMTS available. Let us see the procedure for PMTS. First, we have to choose the qualified workers working varieties of job under normal working conditions in industries. So, we have to select some persons or workers who can do varieties of jobs. Next, study the micro motions of the operator and record job operations on a movie film. So, we are going to record it on a movie film with the help of the cameras. Analyze the film and note down the time taken to complete each element and compile the data in the form of PMTS tables. So, after recording on a movie film, you are going to analyze the film and note down the time taken for each element. If the tables for various basic motions are ready, the normal time required to perform any new job can be determined by breaking the job basic movements and noting time for each motion from the tables. Add the time values for all the basic motions involved in the job to determine normal time. So, after analyzing the film, you are going to calculate the time for each basic motions with the help of these PMTS tables. And we are going to evaluate the normal time for that basic movements. Once normal time is found, we can calculate the standard time with the help of allowances. So, by adding the allowances, we can get the standard time. This is how we are going to record the time for by using PMTS. That's nothing but predetermined motion time study. Let us see the uses of PMTS. So generally PMTS is used to estimate the standard time for new jobs. It helps in estimating labor cost and it is basis for incentive plans. So we can easily estimate the labor cost and we can decide the incentives for the labor. It helps to modify, improve or compare the work method and to determine the best method. So by using this method, we can easily compare the methods or we can find out different alternative methods, and from that we can select the best method. It helps to construct time formulae. It is useful to train the workers and supervisors to carry out these improved methods. It helps in job design, process planning and scheduling. So already with the help of this PM table, TS tables, we can easily process the job or we can design the job, we can go for process planning and we can easily schedule the process. It aids in rebalancing of the manufacturing lines. So these are the some of the uses of PMTS. Let us see the advantages of PMTS. So it is economical than stopwatch method. So why? In the stopwatch method, we have to stand near the observer and we have to calculate for a long time. So it is most economical than the stopwatch method, and uh, there in the stopwatch method, if we have any errors, we have to do the job again and again, but here we are going to record it so that with the help of the film we can easily observe one or two times if any errors are found. So it is more economical than stopwatch method. Rating or efficiency can be determined accurately without employing rating factor as in the case of stopwatch method. So in the stopwatch method, for calculating the normal time, we used to calculate the rating factor for a operator, but here we can easily give the rating or efficiency easily. It is more reliable and accurate as compared to stopwatch time study. It eliminates inaccuracies associated with stopwatch time study. The standard time can be computed without visiting the place of work. So in the stopwatch method, we used to stand there and we have to find the rating factor, we have to find the observed time and we have to calculate the standard time by standing near the place of work. But here, just by placing a camera and by recording the data on the camera, there is no need of visiting the place of work and it can be checked any number of times. It can be applied to very short and repetitive cycles also. It helps to compute alternate methods. There can be no dispute about impartial or correctness of time study, and various time study persons can arrive at identical time standards for given method. Since here we are not visiting the place of work, there is no impartiality or there is no chance of incorrectness in the calculation of time. It helps in estimating, budgeting, and also decision making. It helps in job and tool design and also process planning. Let us see where we can apply this PMTS method. In the machine works, maintenance work, assembly work, servicing, office work. So anywhere we can apply this PMTS method without disturbing the normal pace of work. As we are going to record it on a camera, there's no need of disturbing them by standing in the place of work. Next method of time study is work sampling. It is also called as activity sampling or ratio delay study. It is based upon statistical method. Today it is very common technique of work measurement and it has a lot of popularity. Work sampling involves the estimation of proportions of time devoted to a given type of activity over a certain period of time by means of intermittent, randomly spaced, instantaneous observations. Activity sampling is defined as a technique in which large number of observations are made over a period of time of one or a group of machines, process or workers. So in this technique we are going to calculate based on the large number of observations which are made over a period of time. It may be on a single person or a group of persons or group of machines or processes. So we are going to calculate based on the observations that are recorded over a period of time. Each observation records what is happening at that instant, and the percentage of observations recorded for a particular activity or delay is a measure of percentage of time during which that activity or delay occurs. So here each observation is nothing but which records what is happening only at that instant of time. Activities of very long duration, as in the case of workers working in a shift of 8 hours, cannot be economically timed with the help of stopwatch time study. The most appropriate technique of work measurement in such cases is work sampling. So, in stopwatch, we can't stand for 8 hours and we can't continuously record the time of an operator or a person if it is very long duration. So, that method is very uneconomical. So work sampling can be used in such cases. It takes only 1/20th time required for stopwatch time study and gives results within accuracy of plus or minus 2%. Stopwatch study is useful for short and repetitive operations, but work sampling is found very useful and economical for long and irregular work cycles. So generally this method is preferred for very long and irregular work cycles. Let's say the purpose of work sampling: to estimate unavoidable delay time and for establishment of allowances to compute standard time. So with the help of this work sampling, we can easily find out what is the unavoidable delay time, and based on that how we can give the allowances to that operator, and so at the end we can calculate the standard time. To estimate the percentage utilization of machine tools in a tool room. Also, to estimate the percentage of time consumed by various job activities on the part of shop supervisors, engineers, repairmen, inspectors, nurses, teachers, and office personnels. So, we can easily estimate the percentage of time consumed by each activity which is performed by various persons. Let us see what is the theory behind the work sampling. It depends on statistical theory of sampling and probability. If sufficient number of observations are taken at random, it gives an accurate picture of the actual situation in the system. In this method, some errors are likely to occur because this method depends upon theory of probability. Observations are not continuous but are at random. Therefore, every observation is a chance event. The errors tend to diminish by increasing the number of observations. So, in this method, we are just taking the samples and which are taken at random, not a continuous observations or continuous recording. So when we are going to take it at random, the observations will be a chance events. So it may be a success or failure, like that it is a chance event, and hence it depends on the theory of probability, and there is a chance of getting errors in this method. So to avoid these errors, we have to increase the number of observations so that we can minimize the errors and we can increase the accuracy of the process or job. Let us see what's the confidence level. The results are based upon probability theory. Therefore, errors are likely to occur. These errors can be minimized by increasing number of observations. Accuracy in the results is based upon number of observations. Therefore, it is necessary to decide what accuracy is required in order to arrive at number of observations required to attain the required standard of frequency accuracy. Therefore, it is necessary to fix up the confidence level desired. So, to minimize the errors, we have to increase the number of observations. As the number of observation increases, we can get the accuracy. So, for that reason, to be economical method, how many number of observations is to be taken? It depends on the confidence level that we are going to select in this method. So, based on the confidence level, we are going to decide what number of observations we are going to take. Based on that, we can fix the accuracy level. So confidence level is nothing but the probability that the value of parameter falls within a specified range of values. Generally, this confidence level is shown based on the normal frequency distribution curve. Let us see the normal frequency distribution curve. The probability of occurrence of a chance event can be shown as a normal frequency distribution. The curve gives the important relationship between number of standard deviations, and the area under the curve represents the confidence level of the occurrences. So this curve gives the area under this curve gives the confidence level. So generally it is given as 68, 95, 99.7 rule. So if the standard deviation is within the limits of plus or minus sigma, the area covered is up to 68.27%. If we are going to increase the standard deviation, that's nothing but the probability density is increased up to plus or minus 2 sigma, then the confidence level is 95.45 percentage. As we are going to increase even more the standard deviation, that is nothing but plus or minus 3 sigma, that is nothing but from the mean line it will be plus 3 sigma to the left side and the 3 sigma to the right side. Overall we can call it as 6 sigma level confidence. So generally we prefer 6 sigma in industries, that's nothing but this plus or minus 3 sigma. So at this stage, we are going to get 99.73 percentage of confidence level. So based on this standard deviation, the confidence level is fixed. It is important to decide what level of confidence is desired in the final work sampling results. So based on the requirement, we have to decide which level of confidence we are going to select. Generally, the confidence level desired for almost all activities is 95%. The area under the curve 2 sigma or 2 standard deviations is 95.45 percentage, which is rounded to 95 percentage. It means that 95 percentage of the time the random observations will represent the facts and 5% of time they will not represent the fact. In most cases, plus or minus 5% is considered satisfactorily. So what it means, 95% is good. Remaining 5% may be a failure, like that. If we are going for 99.73, then remaining 0.3%, that will be the failure. So determination of sample size. So sufficient number of observations are to be made to obtain desired accuracy. So there is a formula for calculating the sample size based on this normal distribution curve. Now let us see the procedure for work sampling. So first we are going to define the problem. So we are going to state what are the main objectives of the problem, describe the details of each element to be measured. Next, obtain the approval of shop foreman and cooperation operators to be studied. State the desired accuracy of final results. State the confidence level. Conduct a pilot study. Estimate the percentage of occurrence or the activity of delay for 1 or 2 days. So pilot study is nothing but just we'll study for 1 or 2 days. If it is feasible, we can continue the process. If not, we have to choose the other alternative procedure. Next, we are going to design the sample size, select the observers, decide the number of days or shifts needed for the study, decide the time interval between observations and route to be followed for recording, and design the observation record sheet. So once we are finalizing the work sampling study or procedure, we have to design first the sample size and then the number of observers, and we have to decide how many number of days or shifts we are going to record it, time interval between the observations, and we have to record it on a observation sheet. Make the observations and record the data. Summarize the data at the end of each day. Check the accuracy of the data at the end of study, and then prepare the report and state results. Suggest suitable changes if any required. So after completion of designing the sample, then we have to go for recording the data. From the data, we have to summarize the data, and then we have to finalize the data. And we have to prepare a report suggesting whether the method applied is correct or if there are any changes, or if we can eliminate any unnecessary times, etc. This is how we are going to do the work sampling. Let us see the advantages of work sampling over time stopwatch method. Operator is not subjected to long period stopwatch observations. It is advantageous for timing group activities. It does not require continuous observations for long period of time. It costs less compared to stopwatch time study. Observations may be taken over a period of days or weeks. A break in between does not affect the results. It can also be stopped at any time without affecting the results. It can be carried out with little training. The man hours spent by the time study engineer are much less. This produces less fatigue to observer. It does not need any timing device like stopwatch or microchronometer, etc. It increases the efficiency because it gives information about sources of delay. It requires less time for calculations and to arrive at final results. So overall, this method is most economical than the stopwatch method. Let us see the uses of work sampling. So we can easily determine the working time and idle time of men and machines. The time we can easily calculate the time for long duration activities. To estimate the allowances for unavoidable delay, we can set the time for standard time. It can be applied in stores, hospitals, warehouses, offices, textiles, etc. So this is how work sampling is done, and it can be used in anywhere easily. So in this lecture, we have learnt about the time study methods, PMTS, that's nothing but predetermined motion time study, and also we have learnt about work sampling. Thank you.